YouTube. Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 224. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. That was your Uncle Brenzo. Big up unks. Big up unks same way. It's Wednesday, middle of the week, and you know on a Wednesday we're talking Tobago. We belong to the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So on a Wednesday, you know, we devote that time in the middle of the week to talk about Tobago a bit more exclusively. Someone was saying there was a town meeting out there in Tobago, and I saw a bit of that town meeting, and let me get that audio out of the double. Yeah. I saw an uncle out there in the town meeting talking about Tobagonians need to get militant in order to get what they really deserve. Watching some of the comments even there, you know, when Tobagonians talk about what they really deserve, what do you mean by that? He also blamed the poor work ethic on the supervisor. I see. And what did he say? Tobago would never get what it deserved because Tobago has what? The bread? Was it the bread he said? I didn't really catch that word. Because Tobago has the bread. What did he mean by that exactly? What's your take on the rise of robbery after people leaving the bank? To me, it seems kind of obvious. It seems to me like a lot of tellers are working on the down low, and I find something like that to be too serious of an issue for it to be so many people falling victim before something is seriously done. Like, that's ridiculous. Personally, I find that to be ridiculous. Like, if I were to talk the typical rum shop talk, if I go into a bank, withdraw some money on my bank, and some of that money goes missing, I am returning to that bank and finding the teller, and there would be plenty problems, to say it like our Venezuelan neighbors. Plenty problems. No. I'm not going to. No, you can't. No. The whole bank, all the tellers, problems. Because these things to me, they shouldn't be that difficult to find. Why are they allowed to have their phones on them while working? That's a good question. Maybe that should be a policy change inside of the bank too. They shouldn't have their phone on them. Tobago spend or consumes more than 500 million in goods and services from Trinidad. Wow. Bread basket of Trinidad. Well, I would love if Tobago becomes fully the bread basket of Trinidad, you know. I would love that, personally. If Trinidad and Tobago gets all of our food from Tobago, that would be beautiful. But I don't think that is the truth currently. And that's why when I heard him, I think I heard bread, but I wasn't sure what was the meaning of that. Like, that might have been an argument back in the colonial days when the colonial powers were looking to make sure that they could ensure they feed their colonies and all of that. But Trinidad imports most of its food. By and large, the Trinidad population, the population of people inside of Trinidad, the mainland of Trinidad, the products that come from Tobago is not what makes up the vast majority of their diet. So I don't know if Trinidad would want to hold Tobago captive in order to hold Dashin and Blue Food as captive. Not saying that as an insult. I think it should be that way. It would be beautiful if Tobago could supply all of our food, but in terms of our general diet, what we are accustomed to, I don't think that's true. Years of political mismanagement has kept Tobago back. That I can agree with, Christoph Stewart. That I can agree with. But yeah, I noticed not many of my viewers are CXC age, because many of them they weren't bothered by that whole CXC math leak business. I am sure those of you who did write CXC, that is touching a delicate part right now, and you're wondering if you're going to have to write it over. I hope that you don't. But I think we're going to get more and more problems like this. Like the nature of the CXC exam, I think within the next 5 years or so, unless they revolutionarily change it, it is going to slowly become obsolete. In the first place, some of the subjects and the syllabus, I could tell you as I'm hiring, I don't know how much of it I care for it to be CXC. If you could prove it some other way, I might be willing to look at that. And then the modus operandi of CXC is that old colonial modus operandi. The entire Caribbean writing the same exam on the same day, hoping that no one leaks it while it's prepared by a various group of people meeting in a kind of shady room in Barbados or something like that. That sounds like a recipe for more bacchanal. Every year is the same thing. Nice blue yeti, thanks, cakes. Tobago cannot even feed itself, much more Trinidad. Francis Sylvester, the legend, says, and also to add to Christoph, the political game has kept us back in technology to push TNT. I like your blue yeti, the red color fits the vibe. Yeah, man. Yeah, it does. It does. Well, I think my wife selected that color, but yes, the red really kind of fit the vibe. It is possible but will never happen because we must trade with the rest of the Caribbean. Look at dubia advancement. Dubia as in what? But yeah, it is possible, Terrence Coombs, if you're talking about Tobago feeding Trinidad and Tobago. I believe that's possible. I would like to see it, as I was saying. I would love to see that happen. It's... Or Dubai. Yeti is the brand of the microphone, Ronnie. Blue Yeti is the brand of the microphone. I would like the stream up to 1K likes. Well, thank you very much, Cakes. Thank you very much. The development of Dubai was, as I tell people, when you look at countries to compare with, bear in mind Dubai is basically a monarchy. Dubai is authoritarian. What the sheikh and the prince and the king says goes. There isn't argument based there. So if you're looking at a Dubai model and attempting to make development in your island or country based on Dubai, good night Anika, best good night positive radiation. If you're attempting to make that your model, good luck. But you kind of need a dictator. Reaching Life says pre-COVID, CSEC was supposed to be a fully digital exam where kids do their exams on laptops. That's where I think that's the direction they're going to have to go. CXC, CSEC has to change the setup of that exam if they want to last into the future. I'm telling you that. My child is under one, and the CXC as it exists now, I don't know how much interest I have in my child going through an entire school system to write that bit of nonsense. Tell Guyana that. Tell Guyana what? About CXC or about food and Dubai? Or if you're talking about Guyana looking at Dubai for their developmental model, well, I spoke about that before. I wish Guyana the best. I really do wish them the best. But I think Guyana is in a precarious position. Guyana has a very similar political environment to Trinidad and Tobago, very similar with the racial politics and all of that. And the last election in Guyana nearly pulled it apart. This coming next election in Guyana is going to be serious. The money there's a lot at stake in the election. The present people in Guyana, many people, some over here who haven't followed Guyanese politics talk about it and talk like this is some new entity. These people currently governing Guyana aren't new. Is it the president himself had allegations of something like 40 corruption allegations surrounding him, and by him getting the position of president, those allegations were thrown out because legally they can't investigate their president. So there's a lot to do. Big up Uncle from Mount St. George, positive radiation says. Thank you, Pinks. Positive radiation. When Uncle says that Tobagonians have to get militant, what exactly does Uncle mean by that? Yes, it does curve on, but that doesn't change the fact that Guyanese, thank you very much, Cakes, that Guyanese politics can get very violent. Even if you can win democratically, if you suppress a large minority inside of your island, and the minority feels like they don't have a democratic voice, Guyana has been plagued by political violence before. Talon Thomas says, so if you're not putting your child through normal school, what will you do? Homeschool. That's what I do. I teach. So does my wife. And the children perform much better, generally speaking, in homeschool. You know, I usually put this ad in at the end, so good going. You give me that reminder here. This is all, generally speaking, brought to you by Mindful Education. You can find us on Instagram or on Facebook, Mindful with 2 L's Education. That's the educational institution that I run. We offer learning pods, are homeschool style classes with small groups, 6 students maximum, and we don't work on age group base. We work on learning group base. So you have preschool groups, you have lower primary, you have upper primary, you have lower secondary, you have upper secondary, and they go together in that 6 group with their tutor, gaining that familiarity with each other. And generally speaking, the speed of learning is much faster, the comfort in learning is much better, and you don't get those complexes where children have certain parts of education that they hate. So that's what we do offer learning pods. We have them already running. If you are interested in that, be sure to hit me up in the DMs wherever you see me. We also offer private tuition, one-on-one teaching for most CXC and CAPE subjects. We have tutors that come to your location. That's what private tuition is. You want a tutor to give you individual 2-hour lesson long sessions on specific subjects. We send out a tutor to your location and they do just that for most CXC and CAPE subjects if you are interested in that. Mindful Education, Mindful_education on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook also. Mindful with 2 L's, just by the way. All right, we're jumping into the Tobago news, people. Don't worry, we're jumping into the Tobago news. Starting out there, we missed Tobago last week. And to me, the highlight of the Tobago news last week was the crime. Crime seemed, at least in the spike there was last week, crime seemed to have landed for real on the shores of Tobago. Good night, John T. It landed in Tobago, and now Tobago has to deal with it. I think though Tobago has some benefits in how they can potentially deal with crime. Crime situation in Tobago worrisome, says Farley. Yes, now I'm getting some sticking problems over here. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine has described the murder rate in both Trinidad and Tobago as a national crisis, and he said everything will be done to ensure Tobago remains a paradise. Augustine, who spoke at a virtual meeting briefing on the topic of Tobago security on that's last week Wednesday, said the crime situation in Tobago is worrisome. The island recorded its 6th murder. Of grave concern to all of us is the seemingly increasing number of murders in the island of Tobago. We are already at number 6. We are talking about relatively young men who have died at the hands of gunshots, and that is of grave concern to us all. It is part of a national crisis. It is referred to in some places as a public health emergency, but certainly one will agree that it is a national crisis with regards to murders. Citizens must do their part. He outlined various initiatives in the fight against crime on the island, including a street lighting program and an important app using the 211 platform where anonymous tips on crime can be reported. Joint Army patrols begin in Tobago. Tobago police want time to solve island's worsening crime situation. On Friday, Superintendent Rod Hill-Kirk sought to assure the public that they are doing all in their power to ensure they are in control of what is taking place on the island. He was speaking on the Tobago Updates program. We, the police in Tobago, are doing all within our power to make sure that we are in control of what is taking place. We know that some people look at speed rather than accuracy, but just give us that chance to do what we need to do. Rest assured, within the next couple of weeks, we would have some normalcy return. All our crime fighting initiatives have already started. Just be a bit patient with us and allow us to do what we need to do to create the safe environment within the Tobago public. Well, they're on 7. That was late news. They break up the block opposite the port tonight. Tobago doesn't have 2 national security, it's a 6th schedule item. Hi. I despise the public health emergency rhetoric. It's about security and economics, not public health. I agree. I don't think our crime situation is a public health emergency, and I think that public health rhetoric is a kind of dangerous rhetoric. It heads in the wrong direction, my personal view. But listen, when I watch, I say this nearly every Wednesday, and Tobagonians might not believe it. Because Tobagonians, when they talk about it, Tobagonians seem to believe that Tobago has the tutu end of the stick. the feces end of the stick. They believe Tobago has that end. But listen, I envy a lot of what Tobago has. Look at this situation in Tobago. 7 murders happen in Tobago, and Tobago can bring the ACP, the Coast Guard, the military guys all must come and sit at a table to answer the questions and answer to these 60,000 people over there in Tobago. I wish the Chaguanas district could have done something like that. I wish the South District could have done something like that. So when crime is rising in your specific area, they can bring in the people responsible for it in their area, and they will deal with that. What uncle thing is that there's an uncle in a meeting that said that Tobago will never get what it deserves. No central government will give Tobago what it deserves. And I have a lot of problems with Uncle Positive. I'll say that one time, because I'm not sure when he says what Tobago deserves. Deserves is such a weird word to talk about in real life as a big person. As a big adult, you start to recognize deserves is a strange word. So he said Tobago will never get what Tobago deserves because they are the bread, or they have the bread. So, I mean, is it that Trinidad wants to hold Tobago captive so that Tobago supplies us with food? I understand the idea and implications, but I don't see it as being reality. Sparta says too much crime in Kelly Village, bro. Bro, I believe you. I believe you. There are certain areas right now that are turning into nightmares. That St. Augustine train line area, Kelly Village, certain spots in Arima, certain spots in Sangre Grande, Tunapuna in general. Listen, Morva, St. Anne's. It's insane. It's insane the kind of level of violence in some of those places. But those residents don't have the power to drag in the Coast Guard and Army in front of them to answer questions about this. I'm envious of that in Tobago, to be honest. I'm envious of the ability Tobago has to do that. And yes, you could talk about 6th schedule and 5th schedule and what's the Tobagonians' responsibility and what's the Trinidadians' responsibility. But at the end of the day, even though national security is the responsibility of the central government, the THA was still able to call them in. So those we understand that what's written on the law books isn't exactly how life is run. As I was it last night, I was speaking about this. The law is ink on paper. That's dead. The actual life that we live, what we go through in the day to day is presented to us by humans, not by ink and paper. It's humans doing that. Admitting that the exercises have started and were in full swing, Kirk said police exercises could mean inconvenience for the public. But this is just a matter of making the place safe for you. I want to give the public the assurance that the police would abide strictly within the laws of Trinidad and Tobago in the execution of their duties. And just bear with us with the little inconvenience you may experience from time to time with the police operating on the roadways or in the communities. When asked about known hotspots across the island, he said it was hard to identify any specific area. Even within the town of Scarborough, there are several areas that we have seen a little spike in certain activities. So I wouldn't want to call one particular village. Listen, I was in Tobago and I saw you saying that, Rooney. I saw you saying that. I was in Tobago recently and I was shocked that in the middle of Scarborough, there's a block. Like, bro, I live in TNT. I know how to spot a block. Anyone who has lived in certain communities, blocks are not difficult to spot. Listen, 5 young fellas don't just randomly be standing up spinning in a circle like Kobo just so on a corner. Like, oh gosh, we know what's going on. And I was like, but wait. This is a block in the middle of Scarborough. Laws and processes are useless if they aren't enforced. RL says Sparta 2023 says we need a police post in Kelly. I would hope so. Kevon says Tobago gets TNT larger ease. Gives TNT larger ease. Kevon correct. RL Tobago has started to get a strong drug culture. I don't doubt that. Boy, that is the police blocks. Rooney, you making allegations that I don't know about here. As for me and Mindful Life Incorporated, unincorporated, I know nothing about the allegations that the block in the center of Scarborough was reportedly, allegedly, according to a commenter here, a police block. I don't know that. All I know is that when I went to Tobago, I unmistakably noticed the symptoms and signs of a block running in central Scarborough. And listen, something that I noted, and this is just by the way, this is just a by the way story in that someone I saw on that block, and the person stood out to me because they were unique, how they looked. Someone I saw on that block was murdered in Tobago like a couple weeks after I left Tobago. The guy who was murdered with the long hair, dark skin, and half of his face is like burnt. Like, I mean, that's not someone that is easy to mistake. I saw him on the block in Scarborough. I was like, ooh, that's a block. And that guy, whole face burnt with it, boy. Wow. And then on the news 2 weeks later, my memory just works really well sometimes. On the news about 2 weeks later, I'm looking and I'm like, wait, I remember that face. And there is that link where people were talking about Tobago has gotten a strong drug culture, and that illegal drug culture does lead to more violence. That's the reality. Illegal drug culture leads to more violence. Sparta 2023 talking about the violence in Kelly Village. Kelly Village for a long time now has been known to be a drug hotspot. Beside the violence, there are big blocks in Kelly. Sparta, if you live in Kelly, tell me a lie. Kelly known to have some big blocks. If you want the high grade and stuff, and you go down Kelly. So I've heard allegations out in the ether. And the illegal drugs almost always have violence following it. Exploit for mineral resources and fisheries and maritime trade. The geographical position of the island of Tobago extends the territory the country has to yes, it does. That's true. But yeah, so that drug culture, if the drug culture is increasing in Tobago, then it's not really a surprise that violence followed. You see, violence must follow drugs. If I'm selling an illegal product and then someone steals from me, can I call the police? I have to enforce my rules myself, because I can't call the police to help me. If I'm running a block and some fella come and thief all my goods, all the goods that I have for sale, somebody steals it, what do I do? Who do I call? Not Ghostbusters. Kevon says, I believe it's beneficial to remain a unitary state. I believe so too. I think Trinidad would suffer if Trinidad and Tobago separates, and I believe Tobago would suffer even more if Trinidad and Tobago suffers. If Trinidad and Tobago separates, I believe we would both suffer. Anytime Trinidad and Tobago separate, Tobago would not remain with the maritime borders. Yes, that's true, Mr. Face. He urged the public, this is the Tobagonian police here, he urged the public to speak out against crime and take back their communities. When you stand and say nothing, it affects the entire community. We live in this space, so our mindsets in Tobago have to change. You know, sometimes when you leave some things after a while, it festers into something huge, and then it becomes out of control. We need to get away from that mindset. He added, where there are drugs, you see the drugs and ammunition come forth, and then you see the fight for truth. So we need not encourage these activities within our space. The Tobago public need to change their mindset. This is our space. We need to take back our communities. Listen, what Tobago bad men need to understand is you're not supposed to link with Trini bad men. When you run in your drugs in Tobago, that has to be a separate entity. Yeah, the Tobago bad men need to understand that. When you involve the Trini bad men in your business, I feel certain, this is my personal belief. I don't know, I have no inside information on the realm of the underworld, but I feel certain that a lot of the violence that Tobago has seen for the year so far came about because a lot of the Tobagonian bad men started to link with the Trini bad men. I could speak as someone who lives in Central, and I'm around down further south. Most of the time when there's serious gunplay down Central and South is when one of the Central and South local badmen start to link with the real bigger badmen from another area. Very, very likely that's what is happening in Tobago. Positive Radiation says, I wonder if OB are better than gun violence. When you say better, what do you mean by better? Let them answer why when the police bust the block and bring in the boys, how come he got called in? Wait, what? A meeting and the men had to get released and the police moved to Trini. Listen, again, I state the disclaimer. This isn't information that I am privy to. I am reading the comments coming from my live. Listen, I don't know this. I'm reading a comment. Let them answer why when the police bust the block, and I believe this user is speaking about the block in the capital of Tobago, Scarborough. When the police bust the block and bring in the boys, how come he got called in a meeting and the men had to get released and the police moved to Trini? Yay! No, I wouldn't doubt that. Listen, for an obvious block to be running in the middle of the capital of the city, there must be some powerful protection running there. There must be some kind of powerful protection running there. When I saw that, I was like, Tobago on a different kind of vibes here. Because listen, in Port of Spain, Chaguanas, Arima, even if there are people inside the middle of the city selling this stuff, they're always very shady and shifty and running around. This is men sitting on a corner. Or somebody, uncle is a sergeant. I don't know. But something had to be something for that to happen. Anyway, going on, THA Augustine supports the anti-crime mission. Of course, the Chief Secretary supports that anti-crime mission. And he was speaking about different measures they could do and how they could get certain things done. He said the executive is considering attaching a reward system unique to the island with the tips. They're looking to get some tips. And personally, I think if you're looking for informants, Tobago has a unique ability for that. As Positive Radiation said before, Tobago have a strong Mako culture. So I believe Tobago could sell out all of the crime going on. Tobago could do that. All that violent crime, I'm sure some Tobagonians know what's going on. Positive Radiation says, bro, Tobago is too close-knit for the police not to know what's going on. Obviously. And you see, in that case, to be very honest with you, if people are not being murdered, I would be limited how angry I would be for men selling a grass. To be very honest with you. I don't know how upset I am that some young boys decide to sell a grass. Like, okay. The grass mightn't help productivity in society. It might slow down the society's productivity, etc. All of that, yes. But I don't know how upset I really am at that. But so I could understand people saying, well, my nephew, you know, all he's just selling little thing every now and again, and I don't want to sell him out for that. Okay, that's one. But at the end of the day, 7 murders in Tobago. This is moving past just selling. It's getting violent. And in that case, I think the Tobagonian Macos need to start talking. Who remember when Johnny raid Nelson Street and Copa, he get immediately sent on retirement leave. Oi. Terrell says, trust as soon as something happens, you hearing allegations and talking in the wind in the hour. Tobago police has to go to Trinity to do forensics. When police break down your house, their doors, them vex. I don't even think the issue in Tobago is that the police have to come to Trinidad to do forensics, because like the crime stopping of violent crime, I don't think has to do with a lot of forensics. To be very honest with you, I don't think it has to do with a lot of forensics. For one, I think most of those killers and Tobagonians, I think most of those killers would have come across to Tobago with guns on a car on the boat. That tells you where there's a choke point already to stop this. That's my belief personally. I could say that's my belief because every single time in my memory, I want to say every single time, but I can't say every single time because I can't remember all of the times. Every single time in my memory that a murder happened in Tobago and the murderers were caught in the act or attempting to escape, they were men from Trinidad. This has happened numerous times where a murder happened in Tobago and the men trying to escape and they caught the men, and they were Trinis. Tobago have some big machines a long time. I don't doubt it, but just my theory. That's just my theory. That's my theory is the majority of the killers aren't Tobagonians. That's my theory. I have no proof. It's my opinion and my theory. James Wool says everyone and the police know who doing crime, but it's who eating the food. Tobago getting its own gang culture as well now. It's not always from Trini. Well, Tobago has no unique gangs as far as I know. The gangs, and this is the point I'm making, this is the point I was making about even Central and South. Almost all of the gangs in Trinidad and Tobago are focused and centralized in the Northwest region. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, all of them. All the letters and numbers. Almost all of them are centralized in the Northwest region. Yes, I said almost. Not all, I said almost. And when I say centralized, you have to, yeah, you can come up positive relation, but I have some more articles to go through first, but of course you can come up. When I say centralized, understand how gangs work. A gang isn't Ansa McCall. A gang isn't Ansa McCall. We aren't talking about Massey here. It's not like there's a market, there's a managing director and a corporate structure. There are subgroups. So yes, there could be an individual Tobago gang popping up in some random place in Tobago, but then that individual Tobago gang would get in on social media and get into contact with some local guys in Trinidad, and all of a sudden they start spray painting numbers on their walls. And the numbers they are spray painting on their walls represent something. So all of a sudden, they and their little small fly-by-night gang are now part of a bigger network. So they have bigger allies now, yes, but they also have bigger enemies. Brenzo says Tobago youths copying this Trinidad music foolishness. Yes, they are. RL says, so then here is the question. What's more dangerous, an organized gang or a disorganized gang? Both and neither. How you say sure gangs don't have business structure? They have a business structure, but they don't have a formalized business structure like a managing director breaking down into the CEO and COO and CFO, etc., etc. They have a structure, but not a formalized business structure like that. Now, the problem with organized versus disorganized gangs. Organized gangs are much more dangerous in terms of their reach. An organized gang could get an attorney general bumped off. An organized gang could get a political party into governance with their people inside. An organized gang has further reach. That's the danger of it. However, a disorganized gang oftentimes gets extremely violent. So, some time ago, an alleged community leader inside of Enterprise Community was taken out. And as soon as he died, violence erupted in the community. Now, there might be an argument that if you kept a strong community leader structure inside of a downtrodden community, more people would be alive. There is that argument. If you could keep the old heads at the head of the community groups, the community group, generally speaking, is more ordered and less violent. Now, that means that criminality becomes more entrenched in your society because they become more powerful. Now they have government contracts, they have a registered business, they have a union that is under their pocket, they are in a political party. That's some scary stuff. But if you could balance that, you might be able to keep the violence down. But as soon as that leader dies, what tends to happen is all of the lieutenants, all of the people with their little subgroups now, they want to get to the leadership spot. So there's a leadership vacuum, and there's a fight for that leadership, and you get that kind of bacchanal going on right now. The organized gangs have legally registered business names paying taxes. Well, yeah, some of them do. Some of them do. The Los Zetas gang in Mexico actually have a wine factory now. Well, if you're asking about them having a business, that's different from having a business structure. So, a gang could have a gang leader. He's the big boss of the gang leader. The gang opens a business that represents the gang. The business is Badman Enterprises Limited. Badman Enterprises Limited, BEL. Badman Enterprises Limited, they open a business. And they could take any random person inside of the gang, and he is the director of this business. Now, that business may have a corporate structure, but the corporate structure of the business is not the same as the structure of the gang. That's what I'm saying. Money laundries, yes, Christoph Stewart, correct. And that's my point with the Tobago gangs. I think, like people were talking about, Tobago had big machines long time and all of that, correct, I believe so. Tobago had a real bad man long time. But if Tobago had gangs of Tobagonians, I make this point in my community. My community has had some people who, looking to go down the more wayward side, but we just don't have enough people. There aren't enough people living in these ends. So if you have a gang of 10 men, and gang war break out, and 2 of your men die, you lose 1/5 of your gang. You have lost 20% of your gang when 2 men die. Listen, these gang wars that we have in Trinidad aren't jokey gang wars. 2 men are dying easily per night. That happens because they have enough men in the first place. That's one of the reasons. So the Tobagonian gangs by themselves would not, by just default of not having enough men, would not have gotten as violent. There would not have been that level of violence in the Tobago gangs. But when these gangs link up with the bigger national gangs, that's when the problems happen. So the Tobago artist, there was a Tobago artist, Trinidad artist, who was murdered. Do you think he was murdered for Tobago business? The Trinidad Tobago artist. Do you think he was murdered for something that happened on the Tobago island exclusively? Or do you think, obviously, that had something to do with a larger national gang activity? Positive Edition says the links are being made in prisons. I don't doubt that. I think Trinidad need RICO laws and not the dotish anti-gang law we have. I believe the Explain Your Wealth laws that the PNM has been touting for a while now, the intention of that is to have a resemblance to RICO laws, where you must be able to explain the assets and wealth and resources that you have. Now, I don't know when that law is actually going to get put into place, but they have that on the back burner. Hey, look, if a gang has a business, it's a form of legitimizing that gang and their illegal money. Yes, it is. An organized gang could actually benefit communities if the government choose to oppress we. Well, RL, technically speaking, the police are an organized gang. I know some people go and coast for that one, but technically speaking, that's what the police are. They are supposed to be the biggest, strongest, most organized gang in the country, and because of that, they have a monopoly on the violence. So the idea is that the reason the police can uphold the law is because everyone should know that's the biggest, strongest gang. If I decide to go in a battle with the police, I will never win. So they can have a monopoly on violence. It's just that they're the biggest, strongest gang. That's why if the police aren't the biggest, strongest gang, like what's happening in Haiti, that's what's happening in Haiti. So in Haiti, you can't really call the police. If you get in a problem in a community, you have to look for the resident gang leader. Listen, gang leader, somebody robbed me in your community. You have to organize this because the police can't come in here. That's what it is. So yes, you are right, RL, and that has been the case in many poorer, more downtrodden communities, where sometimes there are underworld figures, underworld organizations that actually have more of a sway in those communities than the government. Like it was widely known, or at least widely alleged, in Trinidad and Tobago that for political parties to go into certain communities, they would have to contact certain community leaders and get permission from those community leaders, and probably even have to, grease the wheel to get the community leader to allow them to go into some of those communities. The police can't provide that protection because the police don't have a monopoly on violence inside of there. Tobago has village-to-village rivalry, example Plymouth versus Bethel. I have no doubt about that. But I don't believe that village-to-village rivalry is what we are seeing in terms of the murders in Tobago right now. That does not sound like village-to-village rivalry. 556 in a drive-by doesn't... Like there's a signature gang... In Trinidad and Tobago, there seems to be a signature style for gang. A mixed assortment of 556 and 9mm in a drive-by from a stolen car. It's a signature by now. The murders appear to ease up. Yes, they did. And I think the police are an effect in that. That's why what I'm saying, I'm envious of what Tobago can do. I think Tobago police can actually get a hold of the murders in Tobago because of the nature of how Tobago is. That's why I said I am envious of that. The THA could kind of be more okay with the police doing a little more extra stuff, and the police come in and kind of carpet the island and shake down a few of the known blocks and make sure they up the security and the port, and all of a sudden all of that fixes. White Leather says all the Explain Your Wealth and KYC rules did was make it hard for poor people to open a bank account. So that's regularly what happens, White Leather. That's regularly what happens. They say they're making laws to catch the criminals, and they make it harder for the middle class people often. If they do that, the court won't make money. The stakeholders in Tobago are saying, though, that you need all of society and crime move to save Tobago. It's not just one area of society, It's not just that you need to tackle the criminals. It's not that the police need to go out there and shake down the blocks. It's about the men need jobs. Men need jobs out there. These sentiments were echoed by many youths in the Buku Mount Pleasant district. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, one young man said, "We need more opportunities. There is nothing out here for the young people. It have more in a life a crime apparently." Another man said, "If you can't get it legally, you might as well just get it illegally, because we're not getting it at all. We want jobs. That is what we want." I don't agree with that, I don't agree with that view. THA Minority Leader Kelvin Morris said he too is concerned as a law-abiding Tobagonian. "We are also concerned about the level of criminality on the island and the murder rate at this time. On the joint measures instituted," he said, "we welcome anything that is within the law." Yeah. On the measures, he said, "We welcome anything that is within the law." Anything that is in the law. But he said he has recognized that the Augustine-led administration has not really talked about the cause. They're talking about the actions to prevent crime, but what about those things that cause people to really go towards a life of crime? We're talking about employment. When you look at Tobago right now, you talk to young people, you know the kinds of frustrations that are in the system. Yes, of course, positive. It's a cassette. Good night, shy guy. Yes, Rooney. Yes. She woke up. It's not just employment, it's the lifestyle that attracts. Pinch. Never pinch. Yes, softly squeeze. Yeah. He said he found the minority leader in Tobago said he found that the THA is only focusing on preventing crime. They aren't focusing on the cause of crime. And here's the thing. I am more in agreement with the THA than the minority leader here. I believe the government's job is not looking at the causes of crime. That's the job of regular society. That's the job of the family. That's the job of the church. That's the job of social groups. The government's job is to ensure that if criminals reach to the point of harming other citizens, they stop it from happening. That is the government's job. More than trying to go down to the root and find family. That is not your business. That's not your business. I think over the years, a lot of the problems we have faced is because governments aren't in their business. They're going out of the realm of their business. They're going into civil society and social society and attempting to make changes inside of there. That's not you. That's not really your job. Your job is to facilitate things to make sure that people can raise their families in peace. How long are we hearing about port scanners? I don't know. Positive radiation. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. What the minority leader is talking about here, I disagree with. I think the THA's approach is the right one. Your approach is to ensure that the criminals cannot affect the lives of law-abiding citizens. That is the most important approach. If it is that more law enforcement officers are needed to shake down all of the blocks in Tobago and then all of the murders are done, then the Tobago government did their job. That's the most important part. If the THA decided that they were going to launch night football and night cricket and go and sing Kumbaya with the fellas on the block, and all the time while they're doing that, people dying on the streets, they won't be doing their jobs. Port scanners can't stop anything when humans can be bribed. I guess it's according to how many humans you would have to bribe. So the implementation of things like port scanners and different stages, you would have to bribe more people and pay more money. So you increase the difficulty of the thing. Imagine THA want to build ramps for canines to screen trucks with sand. And in talking about those further down the line solutions, I saw in Tobago there was some of that brought up. Talk it out. Schoolboys advised on how to deal with challenges. Secondary school boys in Tobago are encouraged to talk it out when they encounter challenges in their lives. This was the message that resonated through the corridors of the Shore Park Cultural Complex on Tuesday, as secondary school boys gathered to celebrate International Day of the Boy Child. Listen to this, right? Listen to this. As schoolboys gathered to celebrate International Day of the Boy Child, the event was hosted by Women of Substance. Celebrated on May 16th annually, the International Day of the Boy aims to focus on and raise awareness of well-being of boys. This year's theme is boys and their mental health. On this day, families are encouraged to spend time with their sons, grandsons, and boys who they treat as their own, enjoy doing things they love, and create memories. Women of Substance founder and CEO Onika Maz welcomed the youths and explained the conference was meant to encourage them to speak about issues and challenges they encounter in relationships, especially with their fathers, as well as how to overcome violence and substance abuse. The thing is, I understand the passion for this, but I think this right there shows kind of the problem. This right there kind of shows some of the problems we are having. Why is it that a women's group is attempting to show boys how to be men? Why? Why is that the case? She went on, what we want to do, and listen to the advice that the women's group is giving to men. What we want to do is encourage young men to share how they feel. Express how they feel, because very often in our society, young men are shut down. A lot of young men feel that their voices are never been heard. Nobody takes the time to listen, and we want to create that space, that safe space, so that they can share about the challenges they experience on a daily basis. Maz told Newsday, she added, we want to also encourage the young men to share, express how they feel, find a trusted person, a friend or family member or teacher to share their challenges, and also receive the necessary help. So when they share about their challenges, of course, help can be received. Nobody will know you need help if you stay quiet. She said she plans to continue with symposiums geared to males. We do a lot of work with girls and women, and what we understand is because there's a high percentage of male perpetrators, we understand the need to also empower our young men. If our girls are empowered and our young men are not, it means that it makes the work of women of substance harder. And of course, there's going to be an imbalance, so hence the reason why we incorporate boys intervention programs. I understand what she's saying, and I agree with what she's saying. There are so many programs and groups empowering young women out there. There are so many groups and organizations and programs to empower young women that in order to get one to empower young men, a women's group has to come and attempt to empower the young men. And here are some of the problems I have with this. Here are some of the problems I have with this. And I'm not knocking Women of Substance here. If anyone from Women of Substance is listening, congratulations, very well done. I'm not knocking them personally, because this may be something that was laid on their heart and they personally went out there and did their best to do it. I'm not knocking them personally. I'm talking about this on a systemic level here. This is an NGO. It sounds like an NGO. So donations are given for this, or they get state funding for this. If you're doing charity to help boys, why would you donate that to a girls group or a women's group? Why is it that a women's group has the resources to help the boys? Where are the men's groups for that? And the reason I think this is a focus is I think women's group are incapable of helping boys in the way they need to be helped. Where was the leader of the THA for that event? I don't know. I don't know if he was invited for that event. So I can't say that. I can't blame him for something like that. I don't know if he was even invited there. I spent International Day of the Boy Children in Plymouth speaking about culture of respect. Yeah. I think a women's group, a girls group is incapable of supplying boys what they need to become good men. That's my view. I don't think they have it. And when I look at the suggestions they give, to me, I feel vindicated in my view. Because the suggestions that they give, when they were talking about what the boys need to do, they gave the suggestions that women always give. Every time women see boys and men with problems, what do you need to do? Share your feelings. Listen, from the headline, if someone tells me a women's group did a symposium on men and boys, I could guess what they're going to tell the men and boys. Share your feelings. Get more in touch with your emotions. Share how you feel. Share your emotions with someone. Reach out to someone and really need that knows you, and really go and get that help. I don't buy it, because I don't think that's how boys are solved. I don't think that's how boys are helped. I don't think that's what boys need. That's not what boys need. That go and cry out your soul and reach out to somebody and share how you feel. Listen, bring up Marcus Aurelius' Contemplations and his little book on stoicism. Give that to boys and tell them, hide how you feel more, and that might be more of a solution than telling boys to go and be incontinent, emotionally incontinent in this place. Emotional boys are killers. A boy who cannot control his emotions is a killer. You want a boy who could feel something and not necessarily act on that emotion immediately. That go express your feeling and tell how you feel, and you feel more. I think that's exactly the opposite of what boys need. And another article coming out from Tobago kind of shows, listen to the difference now with women telling boys what they need and what men tell boys that they need. Listen to this. I'm positive you could speak after I go through this article quickly. Tobago Top Cup tells youths, be your own boss. Listen to the difference between advice from men and advice from women. Young men have been encouraged to start their own business and be their own boss by ACP Collis Hazel, the head of the Tobago division. When you work for yourself, you call the shots. You are your own boss. Nobody comes to you and tell you anything. You know your own brand and you know your customers, and you work towards it. Hazel gave this advice on Friday at the Empower Titties M-Zone Caravan as it rolled into Sid Gray Complex in Roxborough on Friday. The topic was education, employment, and entrepreneurship. Empower Titties aims to give young men 18 to 40 opportunities to realize their potential to achieve rewarding lives, etc., etc., etc. Hazel told participants, your attitude would take you to your altitude. Another presenter, Maxlan Roberts, told the participant their choices will impact whether or not they succeed. You can have, be, or do anything you want in this life. You just decide to choose. Your perception dictates the reality you experience. The way you perceive stuff, is what is going to push you forward as young men, and you need to know that. He told them that time was the most valuable commodity. The billionaire and the beggar both have 24 hours in one day, and it is what you do with the 24 hours that would determine whether you become successful as an entrepreneur or not. Veterinarian Kern Johnson echoed Roberts. Strive to improve yourself, and there are some qualities that you should develop along the way. Qualities like being different, being creative, being honest. Quincy Trim, one of the speakers, told them, don't call yourself a hustler. View yourself as a businessman, and then you would be respected as a businessman. Others who spoke were Marlon Calendar, etc., etc., etc. Joe Field said education is important, and they went on there. Everybody, if you listen to the difference with what the men said versus what the women said to the young boys, everything the men said was a weight of responsibility on the boys. Did you notice that? Every bit of advice the men gave was a weight of responsibility. Stop calling yourself a hustler. Develop discipline. get education, strive to improve yourself, be honest, be creative, maximize the use of your time, self-control. That's the advice that men give to the boys, while the advice that women give to the boys, talk about how you feel. Tell people how you feel. Show your emotions more. Good night, positive radiation.
I'm really happy that the last article you read, it really made my afternoon.
I know it would. That's why I told you to wait on that article. I know you would like that one.
Every zone in Tobago, excluding the one in Roxborough. I'm a graduate of the Empower TT, the pilot project last year. So when I speak to it, I know some of these guys personally. I have had conversations with them outside of the formal environment. And even more so last night, I was in Plymouth with these guys as we were discussing a culture of respect and disrespect. And one of the things I think we're missing when we come to these things, a woman could never tell a man how to be a man. Let me cut that out early o'clock. Let me change our mindset. I think a parent mother cannot grow up and produce a high quality or a top class son. Let me don't play no games and let me don't mix no matters but that.
Just now, positive radiation, just let me respond to RL quickly here. RL, the answer is yes. The statistics prove this. And this isn't an insult to single mothers. I have to say this every time I highlight this fact. It's not an insult to single mothers, but they are not capable of doing the same thing that a man... Like, let's be honest, a man cannot breastfeed, regardless of how much my child would wish that I could provide her some milk from my glands. There's no way I can breastfeed. So there's no way a woman can do the job of a father. It's just not possible.
Yes, let me tell you how serious it is. I grew up with a single parent mother, and I was working with a good friend of mine, a good family friend on a truck, and he told me one day that I was sharing some stories and some of the mischiefs I made in school. He said, you never realize that guys who grew up without a father figure in the household finds it very easy to challenge authority, especially when it comes to female teachers. And I began to look at myself and my friends and my colleagues, and I realized he was exactly correct. Young men who grew up without male father figures find it easy because they're not going to challenge your father just so, because he's going to knock you down. Not in a bad sense, but you grow up with a mindset of, I need to know how to challenge authority. But when you do have a male figure, what's going to happen? Last night specifically, we were discussing disrespect and how we manage it. And these guys will tell you, you have to learn to defend yourself, even as a man. You have to know, the issue is not showing emotional weakness, it's learning to manage your emotions. Nothing is wrong with feeling down, out and weak, but everybody can't feel weak. The whole household can't be a mess. Somebody have to learn to hold the reins in spite of being scared of it and hold the ends and deal with it after.
Positive radiation. That's why I disagree with what the women of substance told to the boys. You see this idea that what you need from men is more emotionality. I don't believe that's true. I think the criminal young men are showing their feelings. They are showing you how much they feel. A lot of these bad men is gal, to say it like that kind of language. There's gal. They're emotional boys who cannot be able to manage their emotions. If someone saying something about you, if someone just mentioning your name in a certain way is enough for you to risk your life and allow yourself to die, you are an emotional fool. You are an emotional fool.
This was discussed at length last night. I could call him Sheridan Kerr went at length last night discussing to these guys in Plymouth about it. And it was so ironic. The meeting was held in the area where elder was shot and killed in Plymouth. Right in the exact same area. And when you look 2 streets down the road, you literally see the guys on the block that would not walk up into the meeting and stand up by his side in the back just to see what's taking place. We were on the side of a murder in the island and just the problem. And that's where we're going to now.
And
imagine if you have abused ego, you kill a man by ego. You kill a man because you tell about jeans or a t-shirt. You're a panty man, so you to use them kind of terms. You're small, if that's what's going on. You're small. You had in mind to say, boy, you even imagine me even fighting up with you, boy.
And what I believe is the method to tackling these things, positive radiation, is a two-pronged method. So okay, you have those discussions going on where you're discussing with young boys about respect and the culture of disrespect and all of that. And I'm sure some of the young men came out and did listen. There were some young men who listened, I'm sure. But then there would have been a minority that you said stayed down on the block and didn't come. That's the group that you need the police for. Listen, everywhere in the world, there's a tiny minority that does the majority of the crime. And I am sorry, I am not one of those bleeding heart people that are confident that, all they need is love. And if they get in love and thing, and no, some of them need jail. They need to be separate from free society. Separate them from free society, and we work on the ones that can be worked on. That's what needs to happen. Yeah, Ronnie?
Yes. Good night, everybody. Actually, what day it was? It would have been day before yesterday, I believe, or yesterday morning, when Sonny Craig, Assemblyman Sonny Craig, I don't know what he does do. He came and he gave an interview about the same International Day of the Boy Child or whatever. And the host, positive radiation, it could help my, Anyway, the host was he was on Tobago Updates, right? And the host is a female by the name, a woman, sorry, by the name of Rhea, whatever. And she was kind of getting into conversation with him, and she was pushing this narrative, yes, men need to be more emotional and they need to cry more, and and I was watching this and I was like, that's the last thing I want. I don't want no man crying around me, so nothing will dry up my nans more, because why are you crying? No, I'm not saying obviously I understand the importance of a man having emotions, but honestly, men need to be men, and men have the responsibility of coming up with solutions and not being too emotional, right? As far as I see it.
The thing is, on the men and crying topic, men can cry, but listen, I wish some of these young boys could learn some game too. Look at some of those 80s shows and see when those men cried. You see, if as a man you're crying for everything, then your tears are worth nothing. As a man, your tears must be precious. Your tears must be precious as a man. So as a man, you with this woman, you with her for 10 years, she never see her cry. But this one moment, the single tear roll down. Listen, the moisture is assured. Let me just put it that way. Because as a man, you're not supposed to just be emotional all the time. So it's supposed to be within the bounds, as Ronnie is rightfully saying. In a society, and any of you looking at the live, in case you don't know, I am more of a traditional believer. I believe that men and women are different, and that because they are different, they are better at different things. So I believe in gender roles, and in a society, I believe the role that men are required to play, because women by default are the caregivers for younger children. Because of that, they have to be more emotionally receptive. A young child cannot speak, they cannot communicate. You have to be able to understand emotionally what they are feeling without words. So obviously women are more emotional being, they're different. It makes sense. But the role that men play in society requires some emotional maturity in not necessarily showing and displaying your emotions for everything. I've made this example before. Empathy is not an automatically positive trait in leaders. Empathy, being able to feel for other people. Listen, if you're a leader, oftentimes you have to make decisions that would be the best for the most people, understanding that some people are going to be hurt by this decision. If you are overly empathetic, you cannot make those decisions. I think we're losing some saneness and sanity in the West because we have some leaders trying to be too bleeding heart. You must accept and be okay with everything. That's not realistic. It can't happen.
Let me talk back in here as well too. And I found it so ironic that it's only tonight I'm hearing about this woman of substance function. But I think they should have been mature enough to take a back step and allow the males in society to take lead in those programs. And I am of the view, women of substance should have stay in the background and prepare lunch boxes and serve boxes who coordinate from behind closed doors. I talk in my mind. I talk in my mind. No, because you create...
You put the women in the kitchen? So you put the women in the kitchen?
In a scenario like this, because one of the things I've learned, right? The empowered is basically a four-stage process. So there are the M zones, which we're doing now, which are the conversations. You move on to 3 weeks live skill training. So it's every day for 3 weeks in male-dominated spaces. So you have a male facilitator that will come up with activities, you talk, you share, no cameras, no medias, no hold back basically. And when you hear some of the things them fellas would share, them gang leaders are millionaires, I'm telling you. Some of these quote-unquote bad boys, watch me, they get brain like rain. If you think Trinidad could flood with water, if these quote-unquote bad boys get the opportunity, Trinidad will flood with money. Because when they hear them talking and schedule that 3 weeks period where when they move on from that 3 weeks period, they spend some time with a life coach and a psychologist who come up and assist and help guide you through that process. And then you move on to a 10-week internship in whatever career you feel you like. And this, the minister will tell you openly, they're trying to keep it as male as possible. It's a limited amount of females.
I like that.
Very, very limited.
I was reading from a psychologist. A psychologist was talking about some problems in modern males, and a lady psychologist was noting that seriously lacking in modern times are the male-only spaces in pretty much every culture of the earth. Males in coming to maturity, in becoming a man, spent some amount of time in male only spaces. So a boy, before he became a man, would have spent hours in groups of men only. So it started off originally in humans as hunting bands. As a young boy, when you're reaching of the man age, you go spend some time with the hunting band. The hunting band has no women. You spend hours, days, learning from men and men alone about how men alone act as men. That now in times progressing, there would have been military, there would have been industrial factories, there would have been the construction, the miners, the even in the men's clubs, there were men's social clubs that the wealthy men would be in their social golf club there, and their sons, when they reach a certain age, they welcome their sons in. Now there are very, 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 very few spaces where that happens. Probably the only space that happens for some young men are in gangs. Strange enough, some of the gangs might be the only places where they have that one-on-one male-only time. And that's a serious thing lacking. A lot of boys never learned how to be men. They never learned. As for what you're saying, though, positive relation, just to think on that, with the gang leaders being millionaires. This is the point I've been making for months now, where people keep talking about the big fish and the only pressure in the black boys and the little poor black men and the little poor black men this and them poor black fellas ain't bringing in no guns and drugs is the big fish and the 1%. Listen, that poor black man talk is the 60s. We don't live in the 60s anymore. Them boys ain't the poor black boys who need a 1% to bring in anything. They have the money to bring in a container on their own. Very likely they have registered businesses that do import and maybe even export all on their own. You're talking about a different era of boys. So yes, a lot of those gang leaders are indeed millionaires.
Yeah, I think it's a mind thing too, because even as this guy was saying, I wanted me to elaborate on it. You can have co-ed operations and you can still have times where you separate the males. You have a lack of male teachers in the schools.
That's true.
You see the problem. You see where the military now beginning to be overrun by females in some areas. When you hear the call, there was a call from male-only police officers. We saw the response. So why you can't take no woman? Why? And then we see the problems of it in the space. Because I will always say, people might vex with me here as well too. Let's say we have a fire service, which happened recently, an all-female fire service or firefighting operations. And happened majority of the time of the month I'm to be around the same time. How are you going to run into a burning building and rescue somebody? How are these senior military personnel, these male supervisors in these operations, ask them how are they to treat with females when it's the time of the month or when they're having these emotional roller coasters and you have lives to save? You have critical scenarios to deal with. How are you going to treat with that? How? And I will go to, let me go even more in detail. I will have worked, I went into detail. I have worked with organizations in Trinidad and Tobago which are critical to our democratic process. And I have been a male trainer. I have led a couple of female teams going into this. All of these females are twice time my age and my mother's age, so they could be my grandparents. And you know what I think they would say? Why we not see more males in these spaces? Why these guys not stepping up and take leadership in these positive areas? And all of these women show respect for me. For today, when I meet half of them, I get opportunities because they hold very senior public servant positions. And I was the little boy among them. But they so learned to appreciate male leadership and the level of respect that they would ask, why are you not into this space? How community? Because they want good men with leadership around them. But they're not giving us, some of them not giving us this space. How you want me to be a good husband or a good father when you're making decisions in the house? And when I share my views and you're telling me shut up as a little boy and you're playing man in here for me. How am I to be a man if I never play a man? No, I'm just showing you.
Well, I guess that's the importance of things like the empower, as we were talking about, where you need to play man. You need to be able to play man among men. So, like, I regularly say this. I work in the construction field. I spent a good bit of my youth days in construction around men only, and there are things you learn. You learn not to take things too seriously. You see that over emotional business. You could never be over emotional around men because they will harass you till you cry every day. If you give them to crying when you get harassed, the men will harass you till you cry every day. Every day you're going home crying until you fix that. And you know what a woman would do if she sees that? If you put a woman inside of the construction scene there and she see, so every day they go make the little boy come son, don't study them son. And that little boy isn't going to learn how to control his emotions. So he's going to get into a relationship with a woman and not be able to control his emotions. So when the woman gets on his nerves and he gets angry, he's going to display his anger immediately. And you don't understand that some of that could have been worked out by allowing some men to beclown him when he was behaving overly emotional in his teen years.
And then the feminists and them going on Ronino and all kind of ridiculous statements. Then you hear the feminists, no, we want a real man. We want men who could stand up and then we want soft men and we want this and we want. That is why some of these guys turn to violence. Because during their formative days, they could avoid the problem. They're not giving you the space to do it. I know of homes where at times the father rough up the children and the mother feeling she want to soften him up and he would tell she go outside. I discipline the children and them now. There are times he would tell she go for a ride and they would vex and they're not playing all the narcissistic and all the bossy and all the thing on them to the head and all kind of I think you with the wrong head and them kind of statement. They don't do them things because at the end of the day he have to go out into the real world. He had to face it out there, toughen him up from early. Later, I learned most of my masculine skills from guys in the motorcycle world. My father was a motorcycle importer and sales. So I take real talks from them. It had these bike because we can't catch inside properly. And they can't take up this and the loss in screw. Much talk and you for loss in screw. But when it comes to certain things, you could watch a man and shoot and walk off and he don't bother you. Because he bill you for it. Mm-hmm. But we have females now, particularly single mothers, that not putting their sons in male-based environments and vex when they're getting blows for it and come and soften back up the boys and them. When they do the mother or the female to run back to everything they're going on to, they turn into violence because that is all they know and that is all society accepts. We need to teach guys other options.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, Ronnie.
I'm not disagreeing. I want to address one of the things when you talk about the father telling the mother to go outside. No man not telling me to go out, no way. Now, I am not a woman that I think if a father correcting the child that he should step in. Like, you know, like the father is the father. He would never, most fathers would not do anything to harm their children purposely. Most fathers. So I am not one to say, you can't correct my child, blah, 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 blah. Nothing like that. If I have a problem, we can talk about that privately. A lot of women do understand that. You cannot fight in front of your children over your children. That just divides the whole situation, right? But two, I think a lot of the blame being like, oh, these single mothers and whatever, but where are the fathers to these children? It's not that the woman getting pregnant by herself. It have and that impregnating women and they not stepping up, and that is a very huge issue that needs to be dealt with.
Correct. Like, I don't too much like the red pill movement for some of the things they see. Like, I understand on the woman's side, women have to take accountability and responsibility. Don't select bad men. Okay, great, right. That's true. And they would have a lot more of the consequence to face. Right, true. Yes, that's true. But at the end of the day, it's for men not to be bad men too. And yes, some women run some men out of the relationship, but then in a similar tone, just how you tell the women they have to be careful who they make children with, as a man you have to be careful who you make children with too. So if you're making children with a wayward woman who is going to attempt to manipulate the situation and manipulate you out of the life of your children to get you to do whatever she wants and all of that, then you get yourself in problems. Or if you were the one who wanted to play mad and so wild oats all about the place, you get yourself in problems. People who consolidate their family under one nuclear family roof, they don't have the same problems, generally speaking. So yes, you're right. A lot of it is it's wayward men, and it's all it's all a self-feeding cycle. So wayward men go out there and make more children that don't have a man over them, and wayward men would make daughters who would go and make more children with wayward men, and wayward men would make sons who would become wayward men, and those wayward men would then do the same thing, and it's a self-defeating cycle. That's why oftentimes communities that fall into that problem, oftentimes it seems like year in, year out, decade in, decade out. Tell me how this one community with the same racial group remains poor and downtrodden decade in, decade out. You may like to believe that it must be that the white man or the 1%ers on the outside are doing some kind of evil thing, and some of that might be true, but a major portion of it would be that they held on to a culture that is self-deleterious. It's hurting them. It's not helping, and it's just propagating itself.
Let me jump back in here again. Empower TT session in Boku a couple weeks ago dealt with fatherhood and mentorship. Sorry if I'm going back to the program because I've
not a problem.
A number of these sessions, and one of the things why you don't see a lot of the content coming out is a designated safe space. So you would see a number of clips coming out, but you would not get the full gist of what's happening because they want to protect the guys that speak and the guys that share for obvious reasons.
Just now, I'm positive. Just a note on that. I love that idea because I know real men wouldn't share if you go and put them up and embarrass them and all that kind of nonsense. But all you need to get better with than safe space. If you know I hate that safe space with it, it sounds so so softy tofty nonsensey. It's a safe. Don't worry, it's a safe space.
I don't know if the minister would give me the opportunity to have to play a more forward role in the upcoming cycle. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, Nathan, allow me to finish.
Yeah.
And I remember a lot of the guys were saying that they were sharing the problems they have when you have your eggs all over the place. And they were, one of the key themes was leaving all your eggs in one basket. It was so bad after the program, one of the young guys was outside saying, fellas, when I leave all the eggs all over the place, and we love knowing that at least it stuck with him. For him to make that statement, he realized it was there. But we praise that culture. Boy, that my child, mother boy, I do she, and then everybody will say, yeah, it's cool. And then the woman will go and say, but that my child father wicked, I put him in court to mind the child, and it's a whole. So we created that kind of culture and we support it. We had to change that. The other side tell fellas, boy, how you go to that boy? How you go breed the girl just when you know you implanted that boy, you're stupid out, and pound them for that.
And that's here now. That's exactly the problem with, and to speak more specifically, in the West, particularly black culture, what has become acceptable. There are cultures where if as a girl you get pregnant and you're not married, that is shame on everybody, you know. And okay, the modern people are like, how could you do that? How dare you shame the young lady? And she's going to feel bad, and yes, she is going to feel bad. But the reason they do that in the culture is because all of the other young ladies that see what that one went through, they're like, I don't want to do that. So not only on the woman, I'm not saying only on the woman, you have to have that on the men's side too. You call it enforced monogamy, where in a society the custom is monogamy, and if anybody goes outside of the custom, you look at them like, what's wrong with you? I remember speaking about this in a live previously, where some people were talking about, well, in Africa there was polygamy, and why are we using the white man listen, you could go through history. That's why I love cultural anthropology. Go through history and watch different cultures as they ascended and fell, as they rise and fell, and see why polygamy is the downfall of a culture. As you were saying, positive relation. For men, putting your eggs in multiple baskets is the way to kill that culture. The African black culture is far superior to the Caribbean black culture. I'm not getting necessarily into that right now. Having your eggs in multiple baskets is one way to kill your legacy, because now you can't focus on the one basket. All of your energy has to be divided among all of the baskets, instead of everything goes down the one line.
Yep. Economically and emotionally. And you see, Nathan, watch me. If you have the opportunity, go to one of these end zones when you have the chance.
I would love to. The one there was one close to me, and it slipped me, and the next one in Trinidad is somewhere far down Mayaro, so it would have to be one a little. The next one after that.
Let me tell you one of the problems we have. Do you know that funding for this program is becoming problematic?
Really?
The vibes we picking is that the government itself having issues in funding these types of programs. That is the most I would say for now. But going forward, we need to create these types of more safe spaces for fellas. Let fellas sit down and talk. Create new networks. Because a lot of my mentors, I could tell them, my mother read Steve Harvey, act like a woman, think like a man. And then she said she decided that she can no longer grow me and make me to the best man on her own. Following that decision, she enrolled me in a number of meal-related programs, a number of meal-only spaces, and put today a number of my mentors and real partners. Guys who have been through some of these same programs and these same systems.
And you see,
I could call the names of some of these mentors
and you see that
relationship with them.
That to me is the real skill of mothers, of some single mothers. And that's why I don't knock them on them not being able to be a father. Because single mothers, there are some single mothers who understand their role, and they will go out of their way. They go to church, they go to sports, they go to everything to make sure that their child is compensated for what they know that their child would be lacking. And that's the wonderful thing in that. And to me, I think that's something that mothers kind of specialize in. Mothers have that ability sometimes to see what their child is lacking and kind of work themselves to the bone to get it done. So there are some single mothers who rightly do that. Trini Hotep, name one civilization that succeeded over a lengthy period of time that was polygamous as a norm. Name one.
Just before just to circle back on what Nathan was talking about with society, not necessarily, shaming, I guess it's shaming women and stuff.
It is shaming.
I don't disagree with that, right? I think that now, especially we on the Western side of the world, like, we want laws to be put in place to govern morality, and that is just not the case.
Correct.
We need to go back to where it was more of a community-based something. It was in culture. It was in the culture of the people to know that you're not married and you're having a child. Like, what is this? Like, that was the norm back in the day. Now we reaching new norm where it's like, well, the new norm is not even that, because I was thinking to myself last night, I couldn't sleep, and I was like thinking, women are no longer becoming mothers a reasonable age is what I would call it, right? And I look back, all of the girls that was in my Form 1 class, and all of the girls, only two of them, sorry, not even me, have children. Only two. So it's like, and even then, more than that, I think only two got married. Only three got married so far. And not even the church girl get married yet. You understand what I'm showing you? So it's like, society just, which we are changing. I don't know if it's for the better or anything.
I don't think it's for the better. Losing. Bear in mind, the family is the building block of society, and I think the reason that some states and some Western states seem like they purposefully deconstruct the family is because if the family is deconstructed, you have to depend on the state. If you don't have a family structure to depend on, you have to depend on the state. Well, Africa still stands as the continent that does polygamy. They still have their societies. Listen, Trini Hotep, I was waiting for you to bring up Africa. I have gone through over probably the last 3 months. I have dug through a lot of African history with their societies and civilizations. Africa had marvelous, shining civilizations. Almost all of them fell because of polygamy. When King Daddy expanded his empire to the hilt, got in all the gold from the hinterlands, the palace was expanding. It was for his son now to carry on the legacy and build the empire into something bigger. Well, he had 60 sons with 30 different women, and all of them want a claim on the kingdom. So when he dies, the kingdom breaks up into different pieces with 5 different sons fighting for it. And the 5 different sons, their mother family, because remember, as a king, if you marry a woman, that woman is very likely from a well-known, powerful family. So how well-known, powerful family would want their son to be on the throne, while my other wife from her well-known, powerful family would want their son to be on the throne. And now because they are well-known, powerful families, they could field armies, and now they are fighting each other. However, if they were all the same mother, not saying that sons from the same mother don't occasionally end up in a civil war, it does happen, but at the end of the day, if I need an army to fight my brother, I have to go to my brother's mother family too. We have the same family, so it makes it much more difficult. It secures the legacy, and that's why in Europe, them white men, inbred, I say them white men, I don't mean it in the racist way, but they inbred, but they did it to such a level to ensure the legacy remain in one. They reached so much to wanting to keep it within the family that they really kept it within the family. A whole dynasty, the Habsburg dynasty, died out because they couldn't reproduce anymore because they inbred so much they became infertile. They understood that, but no, the Africans didn't understand that, lost every one of their empire. The reason that a lot of Africans ended up selling their brothers into slavery is for that very same reason. The civil wars of the African empires brought on by the polygamy of their leaders. And now when my prince and your prince fighting and your prince beat my prince, bear in mind we from the same kingdom, your prince beat my prince and capture me, they sell me to slavery to the other men. And that's the legacy of polygamy. That's why, to me, to hear African people from an African heritage come to this side of the world, at least in the torture of the last 400 years, you lost the thing that allowed you to lose your empires. You lost that, and now you're looking to go and dig back through the garbage of history to pick back something that is rubbish, that kept losing you societies. Let's go back and pick up that polygamy that lost us societies upon societies upon societies. Yeah, that makes sense. Really?
Amen.
No, but Nathan, I think this is why conversations like this become critical. Because I would tell fellas, any female I know interested in me, I look at the way you relate to your male figures in and around you. I want to know. I'm not saying it might be perfect. If I could say, me and I come my daddy really doing it, but I've allowed him is my daddy. I know as a husband, when we have to make decisions, where your mind is, where you're thinking, because a rich white man, when you put that into your daughter's head from an early age, she already thinking of this kind of gold digger kind of mindset from small. Not being honest. And then on the back of that nerve up, you're just like a blasted father. Your father is a no good. So you make me for a no good man and then telling me my father is no good. And then, you see what I imagine I made all by myself. And so when they keep repeating these things into the mind of a child, what do you think is gonna happen? You're gonna create a problem. Why we don't have mothers telling sons what's going on? Somebody had to get a good husband. Somebody had to get a good father. You have to be a good friend. So you have to be a good man in this society. And you keep pumping positivity into them from a very young age. What do you think will happen? My mother used to do that to me till I fed up. I cussed my mother already because of it. But today I understand now what she was doing. For today now as a young man, as I begin to get older, well, I lost 2 teeth, but I grew back. But what I'm saying is,
very good.
No, but for today, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate people monitoring me in positivity. I could appreciate it. So we need to change it. What we tell our children is even when we're angry, your daughter growing up, no man ain't got this year, no man ain't got better. No, you're going to be a strong wife. You're going to be a Esther of your generation. So you begin to culture her mind into that. You're going to learn to use your female influence in a positive direction. You would be able to put certain things into her mind. So she will be cultured. So when people start to tell she's stupidness, but my mother tell me that already. My mother tell me I go be a good wife. So you can't tell me that. You have to cut out the horning and the whoring culture. Man must be wearing woman on the shoulder like if it's a rank. You must stop wearing woman on the shoulder. Yeah, boy, I beat you out. I eat that thing there. Stop wearing them things as a rank on your shoulder.
You're right though. You're right though. It's the culture. It's the culture. The culture needs to exalt different things. The culture needs to exalt different things. A man is not a wet man for having a lot of women out there like that. You are upstanding man in society for having your eggs in one basket and wealthing. What is your view on corporal punishment in schools? I don't think it should have been stopped necessarily, but I don't know if I would bring it back. That's how I put that.
So you can't bring it back, but just now, the wet man thing, men need to start shaming men.
I agree.
Right? When men come and they tell you, yo, my number, I don't reach up 100, well, it's supposed to say, oh, gee, you're disgusting. Instead, all you're praising the wet lord for having 100 girl. Or they need to start shaming men for this stupidness and let them know that listen, your number too high, no woman ain't gonna want to marry you. Just like how they just do the woman and tell the woman, again, you have 5 buddies. Oh God, no man don't want to marry you. You're supposed to tell him in mistake.
I don't get shame because my body count is below 5. And I don't get shame for that man shaming you. But your body count below 5, but you stupid boy.
I wanted to be the opposite because, in all honesty, even as I understand that women prefer men with experience, right? Okay, fine. But even as that, me personally, I wouldn't look for no man with no wealth of experience. I don't want you, yuck. But I think that, women need to start turning down men with high body count too. Like a man come and see you and he's 20 and 30.
Women created, in this case, I would say, women created their own problem. Because if you look back at the philosophy as to how marriage and relationships are not supposed to go, it is supposed to be 2 people exploring each other. Excuse, I'm trying to sound a little professionally.
Yes.
To talk raw. But
yes.
That's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to have that experience. So when you had this thing, that one man with experience and the jam wasn't good, when you see on this same app, the whole talk is who jam good and if jam ain't good and that kind of culture, is the same problem we're promoting. We're not promoting a society of here, what's going on. Both individuals that need to learn to work it out, and they need to sort out, keep it between inside the both of all. But when women talking, them kind of talk, there's a young fella coming up, we thinking and looking at, boy, she got talk about me, boy. She got say me things small. She got say I don't know what to do, and she got talk about she tell them boys, they might come and they might go cuss me. Boy, you can't do this good. You don't know how to wine properly. So that is the kind of thing that they create in our behind a change.
Ronnie, I agree with what you're saying that the males need to endorse a certain culture and we need to shun certain people. And I've said this before. I find personally, at least in my circles, when I look around at the young men in present time, I find the men in my circles at my age group are doing their daddy duties. All the daddies I know working overtime as daddy, loving it, including myself. I enjoy it every day, really enjoy it. So I think that there might be some change in that, but I agree that's a realm that needs to change. And to agree with positive what he's saying there, bear in mind, and this is for the ladies, a lot of what men do, probably the majority of what men do, is to some extent for and about women, you know. If no woman would go with a man with a high body count, there would be no men with high body counts. Quite literally. But if women are attracted to men with high body counts, then for men it becomes something attractive to be. And I could tell you, body count does not scare away women. It does not. So, for many men, it is a chip on their shoulder to rack up more women because women treat it like a chip on their shoulder. If enough women told the men agreed every time they heard the number, then the men wouldn't be going for that number. When you see men, the majority of what men do, you see the assets men accumulate. You look at different cultures. If in a culture women like shiny shells, all of a sudden you would see the men in that culture collecting shiny shells. If in a culture women like bald head, all of a sudden you would see men bald in the head. If in a culture women like tall men, all of a sudden you would see every man looking to wear heels or stretchy bones or something to that effect. That's what happens. Men move in the direction of what women desire. So to some extent as a woman, if you're complaining about what men do, to some extent, it's about what women desire. So women set beauty standards. Yes, Anika Nicole. I believe that totally. I actually think women set the beauty standards for both men and women. That's my belief. Women, who buys women's magazines that push the beauty standard for women? Who buys those magazines? I never buy a Cosmo, Variety. I don't even know the name of them magazines, to tell you the truth. It's only women buy those magazines. Personally, I think women set the beauty standards for both men and women.
But Nathan, I mentioned something earlier before, and I think I probably didn't elaborate on it enough. I think if women understand the influence, we're going to see a change in the society.
Oh, yes.
If they understand that ability to, because you can make a man change his mind without telling him, brother, change your mind, you know. And it happens to me very often. When my girlfriend calls and says, Ajay, you're sure that's what you want to do? You're sure that that's the direction I want to take? Immediately my heart does melt. I said, oh, why this girl asking me this, boy? I had to make sure this thing correct. And I go, and I've been honest with you, sometimes subconsciously, I begin to double check my actions. I begin to call some of the senior mom, mature female I have around me. What do you think about this decision? And I find this white. And then I begin to get it clever. Oh, okay, good. Technically, she's saying I'm not too comfortable, but she didn't tell me I'm not too comfortable. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yes, yes.
So I think if we culture females understand how to influence, if they don't like the bad guys, there would be no bad guys.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The fact that all those bad guys have children tells you something. I regularly talk about it, like with my mother. I watch my mother's actions. My mother knows how to work this whole female business. My mother has 3 sons and a husband, so it's her alone against 4. If she wants something done, like say she wants some manual labor done in the yard or something, she goes and she asks everyone, and everybody like, yeah, just now. She'll take up herself and go in the yard and start. Because she knows neighbors going to look and see Tanty, nice small lady doing work, and 4 men sit down in the house. So you know what happens very quickly? Somebody going to come outside, look out from the front and see, oh gosh. And you have to run downstairs and go and do it. That's working the female ability. She never had the mind that she was going to do the entire thing herself anyway. So I think some of those things, you're right. And I think I think some of the modern androgyny, where they're trying to, as it will, make men and women into some gender neutral something. Men could do just what women could do, and women could do just what men could do. I think for women, some women are losing some of the female special ability. You need to go back to some of the tanties and let them tell you the secret of the house dress back in the 50s and that kind of stuff. Allow the tanties to reveal the secrets to you, because some of these modern girls don't seem to know it. They don't seem to.
Yeah, but the modern tanties don't know it neither. The modern tanties are the ones that telling the younger girls, don't get married, go and study a career and thing, and men will come whenever, and they know damn well that these women going to be 45 years old and very upset and sad and hating on men for the decision.
You know, as you said, Ronnie, I have spoken to so many older women recently, where nearly the only regret you hear from matriarchs is almost always wanting more children. I think I'm going to have to start to do some conversations with some of those tanties. Some tanties who would be more willing to say it honestly. Nearly every tanty, when you hear them talk about regrets and what they wish for and what they wanted more of, it has to do with family. Nearly all of them. Trinity, then you don't know who runs the fashion or beauty industry? Men. Yeah, men are the owners, but men aren't the decision makers in terms of what is on the front. If you look at industries, Anika Nicole, where men are the main consumers, like porn, that's men's beauty standards. Have you looked at a pornography site? It's not all models. It's all naked women. That's a man's beauty standard. Go on the front page of a pornography website and you'd see a man's beauty standard. All naked women. You will see them fat, black, white, yellow, pink, any size, any color. Once they're nude and in certain positions, that's a man's beauty standard. And you just look for businesses where men are the main consumer. Look in a bar. Look in a bar. They will cut off the woman's head. The woman head off. They just have the bikini down below. She could be thick. She could be thin. It doesn't really matter. Woman and flesh. So the beauty standard about this waist and that. When a woman is anorexic and killing herself to be skinnier, is she worried about men thinking that men want her skinnier? Because no man does. That's not a male beauty standard. No man complains about two women wearing the same dress together. No man complains about a woman re-wearing the same beautiful outfit. Those aren't male beauty standards. Now, it's a female beauty standard, because I understand, like, for women, and some people allege, I've heard some people allege that, for example, the body positivity movement is just women trying to X out the competition. So women know that men generally might not find certain things beautiful, so they're trying to encourage women to do the things that would X them out of the competition. So I think that's why there are so many female beauty standards, because women understand they are competing for the top level men. That's where the female beauty standards came from. Women into competing for the top level men and to be the most noticed woman and all of that. That's not on the men. That's, I think, a woman thing, personally. What's your take on makeup? Personally, I have no problem with makeup. I don't mind makeup. If I think it looks good, it looks good. That's nice. Now, I have a problem if makeup is the only thing your face is ever presented with, because that's your natural face. And now, bear in mind, to say and I think I have to print a jersey with this, Rooney. There's a biological reason for that. Attractiveness is based on biological markers. People are attracted to attractive people because generally the things that make you attractive are signals that you are healthy. If your hair is growing evenly, healthy. Your eyes white, healthy. Your face symmetrical, healthy. You have a right size nose, that means you're breathing good. All height and all health. If your markers are being shrouded by makeup, that doesn't change your genetics. That's all I would put on that one. So that's my take on makeup. Huh?
Okay.
All right.
I personally I don't wear makeup because I too lazy. But any woman out there that wanna teach me how to wear makeup, you are welcome to do so. I would love to, wear makeup.
I think makeup looks a lot better when it's not constant. Like, okay, we see a face on a regular, and then you do a makeup, and it's like, oh wow, that looks good. But it can be.
Even as a man, it makes you feel special.
Yeah.
According to the occasion, it makes you feel special as a man. Say, yeah, boy, she really look different. This young boy, nah. So that kind of way. But when you see it every day, all them like normal face, whatever. Yeah, but I think even going forward to with these types of discussions, usually as men, we are afraid to talk about these topics. Because we are usually attacked by the feminist movement for being open and being frank about this. I've been straight up. And even going forward, more conversations like this is needed on an open platform for people to share and be unjudgmental about these types of issues.
Very true, very true.
There's a number of factors that we look at. Even as a man looking for a wife, there are certain things now that you would look for. Remember, when men looking or when you go around having sex with everybody, you're not looking at her maternal qualities. You're not looking to say, okay, would she make a good mother? Do I feel comfortable leaving my child with her? In the event we are to split, do you think she has the capacity to sit like a good or a reasonable stepfather? So we just think beyond the act and beyond the moment.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we are just thinking.
Like a little far boy.
Be honest, Ronnie, because I am saying, in the event something happens and we finish, right? Most likely the wife is going to go with the children. Make it worse if it's a daughter. Can you sleep comfortable as a man knowing that you have a stepfather in the house and you're not comfortable with him or your concerns? And it came up in one of our meetings.
Yeah.
One of our masters was saying clearly, he said that's one of the only challenges he have. How do I sleep knowing that my two daughters living with two other men that are not too sure about? How I'm so confident that my daughters are okay? Yes. And he said he's not pleased and he was telling us not to do it. And he said that's one of his biggest pet peeve. How do I sleep comfortable at night knowing that my two daughters in two other houses, in some cases across waters, how am I, if I'm happening to my daughters, how am I in a position to respond to make sure my daughters feel comfortable?
I can't live that life.
So that these gentlemen are showing my daughters the qualities that they need to look for in a partner, in a husband. How am I so sure that these philosophies are being reinforced? Because the rules in your father's house is different from the rules in the stepfather's house.
You're right.
Are we teaching young men to think
You're right.
about this? Are we teaching our young ladies to think like this? Because from the time you have a child, your life changes, From the time you have a child, you realize the focus is no longer you, but for the betterment of your child. These are the questions we need to have our 15, 16, and 17-year-olds beginning to talk about.
Positive. You're 100% right on that. Yeah. And it's a very real thing. The statistic for that, I think, a stepfather is 100 times, not 100%. 100% is 2 times. 100 times more likely to abuse the child. 100 times more likely. So you're right. You are very right. Someone that you are looking at to have a child with, if you're just thinking you're going to have a child and then that person would go out and, by whose statistic? That I believe that was the CDC. I'd have to go back again. I'd have to pull it up. I don't have it pulled up to find out. Tomorrow I'd give you the base of, you could Google it too. Google it. But that's the statistic, and it's not something that is strange too. If you're someone who is involved in counseling or around children, or you know people inside of the police, of the children's authority and stuff like that, and you talk to them about where a lot of those things happen, it's most often in step-parent situation. This, Lyndon Mack, I hope you aren't assuming that I'm saying all stepfathers are abusers. That's not by any means what I'm saying. I'm saying that the likelihood is higher in the step. Now, if you understand anything about how biology in animals work, That is not something very strange. In lions, for example, you know that lions will kill the cubs of males of other males if they come in on the scene. In many other mammals, the male comes in and meets another offspring there, they will kill that offspring. And we are mammals.
I have a question for positive radiation, right? You have a very weird way of speaking with certain things, right? For instance, you harp on this feminist movement. Do you believe that Trinidad and Tobago we have much of these, especially like third and fourth wave feminists to deal with? Like, you think that we have an issue of feminism in this country, or feminists in this country? Feminists, not feminism.
Like, Rudy's probably attempting to make me go viral through these memes. But I don't have a problem with feminists. I have a problem with extreme feminism. Because I'm of the view that I consider the elements of the feminist movement to be the Usain Bolt, and men catching up or trying to match them in some areas as us being the Asafet Powells and the Reneko and all these other athletes trying to catch up. Because we know Usain Bolt is usually who wins by a very, very large gap. And I understand why the feminist movement is important. I understand why they make those types of steps, and I agree with them. They will be an advantage, they will really on the back foot. But we now have a situation where you're so far advanced that it's no longer a side-by-side we stand arrangement. I wouldn't get into the details of the side-by-side and the one in front of the other. But I think it's beginning to become a problem, and we're beginning to see it, because we don't see the value in each other anymore. I am of the view firmly all elements of a lot of, not all, but majority of females in this country, all they like to have men around for is manual labor, and in some cases for pleasure. And outside of that, we're not seen as valuable. I have sat on boards or committees where I was the only male sometimes, or on a 15-man executive with 3 males, and the other guys would not turn up to some of the meetings because of some of the statements that would be made by some of the females around us. I know of an organization where the male was the head, and he literally stepped down because he was literally being undermined and overpowered by the females, and he was making pretty good decisions. So I think I understand the feminist movement and not anti them, but the toxic and the extreme feminism is something we need to begin to address, because eventually men will naturally just sit back and lead them to what they want, and whatever all they want, all they go have, or you all would get. Let me put it like that. All I want a man for pleasure, I go get a man for pleasure, and nothing more. And then you gotta find a different one for manual labor, and then you gotta find a different one for this, and then you find you go right back into the same, similar to the polygamous type of relationship, in my view. But when you can inbox me them questions personally, don't try to set me up.
I just heard what you're saying, and I asked him.
My answer to that, I don't think Trinidad is particularly feminist. Anika Nicole said Trinidad is strangely conservative. Every country is conservative, Anika Nicole. The majority of citizens of every single country on earth are conservative. Conservative just means you want to conserve the culture and society that you currently have. Everyone is majority conservative. When you're talking about what we call liberal thought is actually conservative, I guess you'd have to explain what you mean by liberal to me there. Now, there are different meanings for liberal. If you're talking liberal as in the American Democrat Party, that's a different thing. There's also classical liberal as in a political belief, a political ideology, believing in liberalism where there's a certain level of societal freedom given. That's different from liberal as in Democrat politics in the United States of America. The Democrat Party in the United States of America calls themselves liberal. They are the liberals, but everything that is in their party's agenda doesn't necessarily line up with being classically liberal as in the political ideology, because a lot of Democrats in the United States are what they call progressive, meaning they're looking always to push the envelope, always make progress, move further move further. We're trying to make progress onto the next step. I personally don't like those people because I believe conservatism is the smart way to move in a world where there are as many unknowns as there are. Conservatism is the only thing that makes sense. But I understand where the progressives come from, and it's mostly a youthful enterprise where the young people always are attempting to look to make things better, which is a positive thing. The way countries generally, the idea of how countries are supposed to run, you have the older conservatives that are holding back the movement by and large for the most part, but then the younger progressives that are pushing at the borders to figure out where we could do things better. And if they figure out where we could do things better, we adopt that, and now we pull that progress into our whole group of ideals that we are conserving. That's kind of how it's supposed to go. And Ikanikil says, I want an example to prove that extreme feminism in Trinidad is going on, that it is not a fallacy. Well, I would say though, to land my point, I would say that what I would say is happening in Trinidad, while the majority of people are indeed conservative, because we are within, as Trini Hotep said, the Anglosphere, we are under the sway of American cultural supremacy. We are under that sway. We are under the sway of American-led liberal politics. Fallacy means it's not a fact. So I suppose you're looking for proof that extreme feminism is there. Anyway, so I think what we are doing is we're falling under the sway of American culture, which is progressive Democrat liberalism. Because in the United States, all of their celebrities, their pop culture is on one political side. So for example, in the United States, when the elections come around, all of the celebrities say go out and vote. They don't even tell you which party to go and vote for because it's understood. They are on the Democrat side. So the popular culture of the United States is pushing a certain ideology across the entirety of the world. So you're asking for examples. For example, Planned Parenthood was in Trinidad and Tobago last year. They met with By Israel over there in Tobago to bring Tobago into it, and they were talking about bringing in abortion and abortion rights and certain female rights, etc., etc. Planned Parenthood is as progressive of an organization as there could be. Now, the thing is, although the majority of people are conservative, you would think that would mean that it would hold the country back, and I think for the most part it does that in the Caribbean. But what we see happening is the educated population, the people who are destined to be the leaders of the future, are most often being educated into liberal ideologies. So, okay, you take a survey of the majority of the population, they're very conservative, you're right. You take a survey of the majority of UWI graduates, how much of them are conservative versus progressive? And then, how many of them are going to lead the country into the future? I was looking, I think Ronnie posted this out from the Bahamas, what the B in Bahamas stands for, big man. And he was showing the problem with that, where the majority of the Bahamas has a certain view of the Batman. But if you send out ambassadors who are university educated, liberal, progressive people, educated in universities in the United States, they have BLM as their status, they have she, her in their bio, they have their pronouns there, you know, they celebrate LGBTQ, they put up the flag for Pride Month. Yes, they are the people that lead into the future, and they will be your ambassadors that go to the UN and sign on to certain things on the behalf of an entirely conservative country. So the United States, when the United States accepted gay marriage, the majority of the United States was conservative and against gay marriage. But you had a liberal enough Supreme Court who could have decreed that over the entire country. And that's the worry that people have with the liberalism versus conservatism. So in Trinidad and Tobago, I would say, yes, you're right, the majority is conservative. But I do believe that our elites, the people destined for leadership, are indeed becoming more and more liberal. That's what I would see. And the danger of that is the elites actually make the decisions, not the majority of the people.
Listen, and that's where I made my statement from, because I can share with you a number of my colleagues are university university graduates. A number of them are youth, regional, and in some cases, international ambassadors for youth programs and new things. And when you listen to some of these individuals speak, both male and female, you could see what is the direction they're taking. I'm being quite honest with you, and they grew up in good homes, both well. Let me don't say good homes. Assumed good homes, because you see they have both parents involved, and everything seems to be okay. And they're like, what is the reason for taking this direction? You live in what could be deemed.
Well, you're being educated into that direction. That's why people are talking about.
They know to use the education system.
In the United States right now, the United States is having a reckoning.
Speak to you. You listen to me. Sorry.
The United States is having a reckoning with their education system. A lot of conservatives are pulling their children out of the education system now because they are suddenly realizing that the education system is politically slanted. And if we in the Caribbean are being educated from a same politically slanted education system, that's the political slant that all our educated people are going to get. That's why I was speaking on the Tobago side, where Tobago has the authority to make their own curriculum. That's an important thing, to be able to educate your children in what you believe should happen. If you're educating Trinidadian children and you aren't educating them in Trinidadian culture, you are educating them in the beliefs of the United States. When you go to the University of the West Indies and you do a liberal arts degree, you do a gender studies degree, you learn all those things. You aren't learning that based on Trinidad culture. And so that's where the liberalism and progressivism is coming in.
Listen, I did a course with Jenna and Yui, and that's part of why I am very fearful of studying at Yui. I wouldn't call the name of the professors that run the program and the system, but I felt more defeated as a man. And the program was to address gender-based violence.
Bro,
at the end of the program,
I used to sit down in gender studies classes.
And then I say, welcome to the world of feminism. But throughout our whole discussions, you keep saying it's a balance and it's a equal, but at the end you're saying, welcome to the world of feminism. Come on, man. I think that is one of the reasons why my biggest fear of getting a university degree is having to face some of those types of professors. Because from clearly on this life, you all know my mouth. And I'm going to see how I feel, and I'm going to ask the hard and the troubling questions.
Well, ask it. Bro, in university, I sat down in many gender studies classes. I loved the gender studies classes personally. They were very informative to me. I enjoyed them. But that is an opportunity for research. I guess everything is an opportunity for research. The problem for me with gender studies and some of those things is their ideologies, their opinions being taught to young people as fact. And young people are coming into the world believing these things as fact. Some young people are coming into the world believing that women could become men and men could become women, and they believe that as fact. That's an ideology. We closing. So let me hear the closing statement. Say positive.
Quick question though. I know we went a little late, but who funds studies related to males in Trinidad and Tobago? Where can we find statistics concerning the young men in Trinidad and Tobago? Where can we see what is the most I get might be the birth rate or the death rate of
That's the Central Statistical Office.
At the universities, we're not seeing how many of them are employed. We're not seeing how many of them are fathers and actually so statistics.
Some of those, we have some of those stats. Check the CSO office. We have some of those stats.
But nobody really digs deep into it from my view. One, two, good conversation tonight. I'm glad that the conversation moved from crime and Tobago into issues like this. I think it's very, very important because this has a direct impact on our culture and our society. And I'm looking forward to videos, Nathan, concerning some of these issues that we discussed tonight with some of the facts that you presented tonight. Have a good night. Good
night, bro. Well, again, postgraduate research opportunities. Yes. I agree, postgraduate research opportunities, they do provide research opportunities. Just researching what? And how is the research done? I'm concerned about some of that. Some of the research isn't done with scientific rigor. Ronnie, anything to say in the last?
Yes, I would just like to say it was lovely. Tonight, I missed some of what you were saying, but yeah, that was good.
You know you could take it in on the YouTube.
Yes, of course I will. I'll do that tomorrow, as I always do. I always go back because I missed a lot. But it was lovely. I would just like to want everybody to homeschool their children. Do that. That was a plug for mindful education.
Yes.
So good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night. All right, people. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This has been the Mindful Live. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow, Thursday. Tomorrow is Thursday Talks. If you enjoy the ending here where we just kind of talk, that's what tomorrow is about. You come with your topics, you could join the live and we discuss. Until then, people, hold it on. Stay safe. Laters. Peace.